Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Deislayers, and in this video, we're gonna go ahead and check out all the very best top 5 exotic auto rifles in Destiny. Now pretty much what I use as my main criteria here is I use the fastest time to kill, how it was in terms of stability, how good it was in terms of range, and also how it felt personally from mobility aspects. So those are just some of the factors that I took into account when I was making this list. Now before we go any further in the video guys, I got a huge favor to ask of you, and that is for those of you that are new, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on notifications as well. With that being said, let's jump right into the video. Arriving in the number 5 spot of all the exotic auto rifles out there is this fantastic and very customizable Khvostov. So as I just said, this weapon is exceptionally customizable and it can be played in one of two ways. The first one being that of a high range factor, or having it be that of a high stability factor. Now for me personally, I like to run high stability on my weapons because that allows me to hit more headshots and I'm more consistent with all my shots that are being fired. So now for this Khvostov, in order for us to really understand how good it is, we gotta know all the perks that it's got. So as we inspect the weapon, we see that it has a first perk that you can select, which is 450 or 900 RPMs. Then you can choose from automatic, semi-auto, and burst fire modes, as well as having a scope of either modernized or classic. Furthermore, you can even customize the 4th and 5th perks by choosing hammer forged, rifle barrel, and brace frame, or extended mag, counterbalance, and rangefinder. Now for me, like I just said earlier, I like to have a stability build. So what that means is I run 900 RPMs with full auto, the classic scope, as well as brace frame, and also counterbalance. So what that means is that I have maxed out stability throughout the entire weapon, and it also allows me to be very consistent. Now the reason I like this build so much is because the fact that it's like that of a Doctrine of Passing, but in my personal opinion, I think that this is far superior than a Doctrine any day of the week. And the reason being is because it's got the exact same rate of fire and it also has the exact same impact. But furthermore, what it's even got is it's got even better range and better stability than that of a Doctrine. What this weapon also has is counterbalance, and so what that means is that my vertical recoil is just that, it's only vertical. There's no lateral side-to-side movement at all, which makes this gun exceptionally easy to handle and very predictable in terms of overall recoil. Now the other thing that I like about this weapon is that it's got a fantastic magazine size, which means that you can probably get around 2 or 3 Guardians if you happen to land all of your shots. Realistically speaking, you're probably only going to get 2 kills from it with this type of build, but now if you wanted to go ahead and try out the range build, that's a very possible option as well. If you wanted to go and check that build out, you'd probably go with 450 RPMs, and then you would also go with possibly either a semi-auto or burst fire mode, and you'd probably keep the classic scope, but then you might even want to go ahead and try out hammer forged, as well as even doing rangefinder. So that's something that you guys might want to keep in mind if you want to go ahead and check out this range build. Now the other thing that I want to show you guys is that with the build that I have right now, you can see from right there that it's got 80 out of 100 in terms of rate of fire, and it's also got that impact of 2 out of 100. Now keep in mind though with this build is that it's actually a little bit deceiving because there's a glitch in the game showing that actually it's an 80 out of 100 rate of fire, when in actuality it's the exact same thing as the Doctrine of Passing at 100 out of 100, so that's just a little FYI. Overall, if you guys want to go ahead and check this weapon out, I would strongly advise it because it's highly underrated and it's very, very powerful. Coming in the number 4 spot of all the exotic auto rifles out there is this monster called the Hard Light. Just like the name suggests, this thing hits like a light beam, and the reason is because of 2 very important words called aim assist. This weapon has an aim assist out of 100 out of 100, and it is the best in the entire game. As long as you're in close proximity of hitting that Guardian, the odds are that your bullets are definitely going to hit. Now in order for us to understand how exceptionally strong this weapon is, we need to go ahead and inspect the weapon to see all the perks that it's got. So as we inspect the weapon, we see that it's got an intrinsic perk called Volatile Light, as well as some other perks that we can choose from, and in the first perk, we got Glass Half Full or Spray and Play. In the second perk, we got CQB Ballistics, Accurized Ballistics, and Aggressive Ballistics, and then in the third perk, we can choose from Quick Draw or Fed Stock. Now for me, I like to go ahead and run stability builds, so the best perks to run for that is CQB Ballistics as well as Fed Stock. Now for you guys, if you like a little bit of a different thing in terms of range, then maybe you want to go with Accurized Ballistics or Aggressive Ballistics, but go ahead and play around with that to see what you guys like the best. Now I also am running Glass Half Full, because whenever I'm getting the bottom half of the magazine, which happens quite often, I'm always doing additional damage, and that's a plus in my book. Lastly, this weapon has an intrinsic perk called Volatile Light, which does 2 very important things. The first one being that you have an overpenetrating target of rounds, meaning that you can not only shoot through people, but you can also ricochet off of surfaces. So you can shoot off the ceiling, off of the walls, or even on the ground and still get bullet damage on not just one, but multiple guardians, which makes this weapon exceptionally strong. Now in addition to that, it also has no damage fall off. So what that means is that when you're right in the middle of someone's face, or whether you're on the other side of the map, as long as you're hitting them, you're still going to get the maxed output of damage, and that is incredible on so many levels. It's a very underrated perk, and I would strongly advise you guys using this weapon if you guys get the chance. Now the other thing that I want to mention with this weapon is that it's got a rate of fire of 88 and also an impact of 8. In addition to that, it's got a stability of 100 out of 100, making it exceptionally accurate, and then you include all that aim assist, this accuracy of this weapon is literally through the roof and by far superb on so many levels. In addition to all of this, it's even got a reload speed of 86 out of 100 and a magazine size of 40. So what that means is that not only are you able to go ahead and get 2, possibly even 3 guardians, you're also able to go ahead and reload almost instantaneously, allowing you to get many multi-kills. If you guys haven't taken this weapon out into the Crucible, by all means do, because you are going to absolutely melt them. Appearing in the number 3 spot of all the exotic auto rifles out there is this electrifying beast called the Zhalo Supercell. Now the reason that I like this weapon so much is because it has the potential to chain damage from one guardian to the next. So say that, for example, we are ahead and 2 guardians are clustered together, or possibly even 3 or even 4 guardians are all clustered around a captured point in control, or possibly around heavy or something else like that. As long as you're damaging one of those guardians, then the damage that you're inflicting on one is going to be then chained to the rest. So that gives you a very high potential to get massive amounts of multi-kills, making this weapon exceptionally powerful. Now in order for us to understand the rest of this weapon's perks, we need to go ahead and inspect the weapon so that we can see exactly what it's got. So as we inspect the weapon, we see that it's got the intrinsic perks of bolts from the blue, as well as persistence, and we can even go ahead and change between the first and second perk of smart drift control, CQB ballistics, or aggressive ballistics, and even brace frame, hammer forged, and rifle barrel. Now what I like to go ahead and do on all my auto rifles is have that maximum amount of stability, and so in order for me to have that, I use CQB ballistics as well as brace frame. Now once again, if you guys like to have something with more impact but a little bit more recoil, then maybe aggressive ballistics is for you, or maybe if you like to have something with even a little bit more range, then maybe smart drift control is better for you, so go ahead and fill with that to see exactly what is your preference. Now this weapon also has persistence, which is fantastic because that allows you to become much more accurate the longer that you're firing from your weapon. Now in addition to all of this, it has the intrinsic perk called Bolts from the Blue, and this thing's a little bit of explanation. So what this weapon or this ability allows you to do is whenever you're getting double kills, you have the potential to not only gain super energy, but it also has the potential to also return ammo from your magazine. So say for example that we are going ahead and getting that chain damage done, we get one double kill, we can go directly into the next double kill because we won't have to worry about reloading since that magazine is going to possibly reload, and we're also going to get even more energy, making this weapon another fantastic and very underutilized weapon in general. The other thing that I want you guys to know here is the exact stats of the weapon. And so as we see that, it's got a rate of fire of 88 out of 100 and an impact of 8 out of 100 as well. Now its stability is once again phenomenal with a 91 out of 100 stability, and its reload speed is decent. It's not great, but it's still pretty good. Now the only bad thing I will say about this weapon is the fact that its magazine size is pretty small at only 28, and so you're only going to get 2 kills tops on this weapon, and which I really would like to have another higher reload speed or another even say magazine size, but you know, it is what it is, and that's the only downfall of this weapon. Overall, the fact that it's able to go ahead and chain multiple guardians from one kill to the next makes this weapon so unbelievably good that you need to try it out ASAP. Reaching the number 2 spot of all the exotic auto rifles out there is this marvelous weapon called the Necrochasm, which cuts through guardians like a knife through butter. Now this weapon can actually be run in one of 2 ways. The first one is to have a stability build, and the second one is to have a range/impact build. Now in order for us to understand how this is done, we need to go ahead and inspect the weapon so that we can see the exact perks that it's got. So as we inspect the weapon, we see that it's got the intrinsic perks of Cascade, Cursebringer, and Zen Moment, but then it also has the selectable perks of Perks 1 and Perk 2 via CQB Ballistics, Accurized Ballistics, and Aggressive Ballistics, as well as Faded Stock, Single Point Sling, and Flared Magwell. Now, in order for you to have the stability build, you have to run CQB ballistics with fitted stock because it makes the weapon much more accurate. Now, if you want to go ahead and run that range/impact build that I was talking about before, then go ahead and either select accurized ballistics or aggressive ballistics, because that's not only going to give you more range, but it's also going to give you significantly a larger amount of impact. For me, I don't like to do that because I'm not as accurate, and I feel like whenever I have CQB ballistics on, I actually do more headshots, and thus I have actually a faster kill time. But go ahead and fiddle around with that between all three of those muzzle breaks to see which one is best for you. Now, this weapon also has the intrinsic perk of Zen Moment, and that is fantastic on this weapon because it allows you to have much more stability as long as you're doing damage. It's also got Cursebringer, and that's kind of a cool thing because whenever you kill somebody, you get this massive explosion, and so that's kind of like Firefly. Now, I will say that with Cursebringer perk, it's not that great because the radial damage isn't that great, but it's still nice to have because it always has the potential to do a little bit of extra damage. This weapon also has the intrinsic perk of Cascade, so whenever you go ahead and finish off an enemy with a melee, then you always are going to get a portion of the magazine size to come back, and that's always a plus in my book. Now, the other thing that I want to mention about this weapon is its overall stats. And as you guys can see from right there, it's got a rate of fire of 100 out of 100 and an impact of 4 out of 100. So just to kind of put that in comparison, this weapon is actually twice as good as that of a Doctrine, or say even that of the Khvostov, because not only does it have the exact same rate of fire, but it doubles the overall impact, making it much more powerful in terms of faster times to kill. This weapon also has a significantly good magazine size at 54, allowing you to easily get 2 kills, possibly even 3 or even 4 kills, depending on how weak certain Guardians are. If you guys haven't used this weapon in PvP, then by all means, take it out because I guarantee you that you're going to be melting Guardians left and right. Finishing in the #1 spot of all the exotic auto rifles out there is this phenomenal hot rod called the Suros regime. Now, back in year 1, this thing was the absolute dominant powerhouse, at least for the first couple of months that Destiny was out in PvP. Then Bungie went ahead and they nerfed all auto rifles, and that's what kind of brought us into that last war/Thor meta that not everyone likes so much. But since Age of Triumph has come out, auto rifles got a brand new buff, and thus the Suros regime is back, and again is the #1 king in terms of overall output for damage in PvP. Now, the reason that this is so good is because of the perks that it's got, but in order for us to understand that, we need to go ahead and inspect the weapon. So as we inspect the weapon, we see that it's got the intrinsic perk of Suros Legacy, but then it's also got the customizable perks of Lightweight or Hammer Forged, Focus Fire or Spinning Up, and then either Linear Compensator, Field Choke, or Smart Drift Control. Now, if you want a good stability build, which is what I do, then definitely go with Smart Drift Control because that gives you a penalty to range, but it gives you very good stability. Now, I would also suggest using Hammer Forged because Hammer Forged not only increases your range, but also increases your accuracy, and that's great for doing distance cross map, as well as being more accurate in general. Now, this weapon also has Focus Fire and Spinning Up, and I tried both, but I found that Spinning Up was much better because I was able to have a faster kill time. Now, I use Focus Fire, but what I found with that is that not only does your stability drop drastically, but you have to hit almost all your shots being headshots. And the reason is because if you're doing body shots, the rate of fire is simply not enough to compete with other weapons in PvP, so that's why I would really advise using Spinning Up, because the weapon's impact makes up for it, and let me explain why. So as we go ahead and we inspect the weapon and we see its overall perks, we see that it's got a rate of fire of 77 out of 100, and it's also got an impact of 28 out of 100, which is the best impact that we've seen so far. Now, to maximize all this stuff, it's even got a stability of 79 out of 100 and a very good magazine size of 33. So the reason that this rate of fire is okay to have is because with Spinning Up, you not only are allowed to have that rate of fire increase, but you also keep that really high stability of 28. What you can go ahead and do is pre-fire around corners or even just fire slightly around corners, and that's going to ramp up that rate of fire, and you're still going to have a huge stability as well as high impact. The other thing that I want to say about this weapon is that it's got the intrinsic perk of Suros Legacy, which is so unbelievably powerful because it has the ability to have glass half full, which does more bonus damage in the bottom half of the magazine, but then it also has the chance to regen your health, making this a phenomenal weapon to use in PvP. Guys, if you want to have a good experience from back in the good old days of year 1, then the Suros regime is the way to go and you won't regret it. Just a quick little recap here, guys, because I know that we talked about a lot of things in a very short amount of time, and I want to make sure that we remember all the weapons that we discussed. Arriving in 5th place came that of the Khvostov, and then came the Hardlight, followed by that of the Zhalo Supercell. In 2nd place was the Necrochasm, and in the number 1 spot was that of the Suros regime. Now, as a special honorary mention, you're actually seeing some game footage of the Monte Carlo, because even though I didn't make this list, it's still a very, very powerful weapon, especially with high caliber rounds, and it deserves to have this special mention. Now, the other thing I want to say here, guys, is that all these weapons that I've been showing right now are simply based on my personal opinion, and they're also based on my perspective and playstyle. Just because I rank them in this order doesn't mean that that is actually the order that's best for you. Everyone has their own unique playstyle, and so because of that, we're all going to have our own different perspectives and different opinions. The only thing I ask is that you go ahead and try out all of these in PvP, because if you don't, then you're missing out on a huge fun aspect of the game within that competitive environment. Lastly, go ahead and check out some of my other new videos, as you can see right there on the screen. If you enjoyed this one, then you're definitely going to enjoy those as well. That's pretty much all that I've got for you as of right now, and so as always, Deislayers, great gaming, until next time.